We have a motion to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, minutes are approved. Third item on the agenda is a presentation on the job fit internship with Justin Hensley and Matt Laughlin.
So you all have graciously, been a funder of some of these interns that have come through Job Fit. So they are here this morning to give you all a presentation on on that program. We are so grateful to Cloud Fit for all of this work. Sorry, it's a little tight, guys, but y'all are used to that, right? Sticking and moving, whatever the situation requires.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is it my turn?
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank you.
joining us.
Yeah. First, just want to make sure I acknowledge and thank you all for your continued support of CloudFit, and I know you've also been helping with JobFit, and you might have heard KidFit. So first, just thank you for the continued enablement in that arena. Today I have with me, I'm Matt Laughlin. I'm a vice president over at CloudFit. I moved to the region probably 4 years ago. Got 4 little kiddos and my wife and stuff, so we love the area. Came from mostly Middle Tennessee area is where I grew up from. I've got Justin with me. He also came here from Kentucky, but he's one of our leaders in cybersecurity at CloudFit Software. He's also on the board at CVCC. Huge, passionate calling to helping kids and people stay in this area forever. And then we've also got Laurel, who's going to speak in a second, where Laurel has a background in healthcare. More recently, as a career changer, came into the IT world. And so that's part of the JobFit story. So we're going to let Laurel speak in a minute. This is me. Yeah. I already did this. All right, thank you.
Track with
All
me.
right, boom. There you go. So 3 items on the agenda for today. 1, I just want to make sure everybody's aware, brief overview of CloudFit. 2nd, brief overview of KidFit, but really why we're here is talking about JobFit, enabling people for careers, right? So CloudFit, it took us a whole minute and a half to walk here from headquarters. I told Alicia on the way in, the steps were cumbersome, the 4 or 5 across the crosswalk that you get to push the button on. But we're about 160 people at large across the United States, a good portion of them here locally, all U.S. citizen. 90+% are cleared because of some of the work we get to do. You go ask Carol Moon, one of the key founders. He'll say the reason CloudFit exists is because of that bottom right section, giving back, nonprofits, KidFit, and JobFit. CloudFit, these are our core values. We're really about how do we best serve our customers in a servant leadership mindset. When we say we do something, we do it. How do we drive towards results? How do we move quickly? And how do we empower our customers and our individuals on the team? So we all try to stand by that and continue to iterate upon that. And I hope you, over time, get to see more of that in how we approach our nonprofits as well. As I mentioned, 160 employees across about 25 states, 65, 70 of them here locally, about 90 of them remote. Our trajectory of growth is local. How do we grow rapidly with our entry, mid-level, coming into senior level engineers within the IT world? And I know some of you might be very well versed in technology. For those that aren't, we do 3 main things. Our overarching mission is how do we run mission critical workloads? Like how do we make sure that airplane check-ins are working well? How do we make sure that the grocery store counters are running well? And then how do we partner with DoD and their mission? Department of Energy, Air Force, Navy, et cetera. How do we partner well in those industries to best support them? User experiences, so such as Microsoft 365, Exchange, Outlook, SharePoint, some of those technologies will run, manage, and migrate to in the cloud. Applications and infrastructure. So if somebody's got a server underneath their desk that's running a very critical application. Happens all the time. How do you take it and migrate it to the cloud and then run it for them so it's no longer an issue? And then cybersecurity, one of the probably leading industries. A lot of the local graduates are coming out with cybersecurity degrees. How do we provide that security operations center, virtual CISO type roles for Fortune 500 companies. We do those three things.
Just out of interest, is your cloud infrastructure, is it AWS? Is it Azure? Are you agnostic on that?
We're mostly agnostic, but we lean very heavily on the Microsoft Azure cloud. That's where part of my professional background comes in, but we've done AWS and GCP and Oracle as well. All right, so that in a nutshell is CloudFit. I think I only have one slide on KidFit. So KidFit has a physical location over off of Graves Mill, where multiple nights a week kids are getting trained in age-appropriate strength and physical fitness. Anybody from 5 years old up to graduating high school. Carol, one of the founders of this nonprofit, he says rich kids get travel ball and personal trainers. Everybody else doesn't. So how do we level that playing field? And so it's free to kids. You can go onto the KidFit website, or they're all across social media, and you can see where multiple nights a week kids are going there and getting age-appropriate strength. I mean, we've taken kids on camps to like football camps. There's also been like D1 athletes that have come out of it. So I think it's creating a legacy and making a good impact. A lot of the local kids in local high schools. All right, and then JobFit. As you can see here, our focus is how do you lower the barrier to entry for great careers? We've got high school students, college students, and career changers. How do we give them real experience? How do we give them training? And then paid, and there are some unpaid experiences. Today, our main focus, being a CloudFit-oriented company, is on technology. So we do three things today. We have, what I'm going to dive in more in detail here today, is the summer internships. But we also have a strong partnership with LU and their capstone, cybersecurity capstone program. We also have a really strong partnership with the STEM program over at CBCC. And so year round, fall and spring, capstone programs, spring STEM programs, summer, full-time summer intern work experiences. High level and by the numbers. So it is a nonprofit. It started in 2018. So far, we've had 125 active participants in the program, and we've been able to hire over 20 of them locally. If you took the rough math of what their salaries are, it's a per annual impact of over about $1.5 million here locally, staying in the region, and that number is going to grow. So internship program alone, you can see it right here. And Margette, I tried to capture when y'all started plugging in with us too. Around 21, you were involved from the beginning, but really involved last 3-4 years. 2022, 15 interns. We had 60 applications. 2023, 17, and then over 300 applications. This year, we're going to have at least 21 full-time internship spots, and we've had, now the number is actually close to 500 applications. So the word's getting out, the impact's getting known. I think what y'all might really appreciate is when we go look at their resumes and their applications, all the high schools and colleges that they're coming from. It's all over the place. Yeah. It's really neat when you go and get a sophomore in high school named Aditya, who had nothing at all knowing about software development, comes in his first summer. At the end of the summer, he's speaking in front of a company of 160 people. Hey guys, I didn't know anything, but I know my career wants to be software development. Comes back the next year. Now he's at Virginia Tech. He's coming back this summer and he's going to be leading some stuff. I hope I can keep him. Like once he graduates, I hope he comes and works for us. But real lives are being changed, which is really neat. Just a little bit of detail on the summer program that I know y'all are supportive of. 10-week, fully paid. We do project managers, software developers, and cybersecurity analysts are the main roles. It's team-based. We put everybody on a working team. They'll have a PM, they'll have some software developers, they'll have some cybersecurity engineers in general. And they deliver real projects that we use day to day internally or for our customers. We have a give back component every week, at least twice a week. They're going either to Jubilee or Boys and Girls Club. And this year we're looking to add a couple ad hoc volunteering experiences at Daily Bread. We have professional coaching there. How do you go about resume building? How do you go about professional development? And then so we have about 21 interns this summer. 21 to 24 is our goal. How many coaches have already volunteered.
Over 30.
So at CloudFit, we got about 30 of our employees coming and saying, hey, I'll spend time with these junior professionals this summer. So we generally have a 1-to-1 ratio with like a professional career coach during the summer. So with that, I want to transition over to Laurel so she can give you a little bit of background of where she came from, her experience of the Job Fit program and what she's doing now. And then after that, I'm going to hand it over to Justin that kind of cast a little bit of vision of what we're thinking ahead and how we might be able to best continue to partner with this group. That work? Cool.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so a little bit more about my background just to provide context. So I attended Sweetbriar College, got my bachelor's in psychology, thought that I was going to apply to medical school, but wanted to take a little bit of time off, got my master of public health, and then kind of tried to bounce around and find my spot. I did community mental health, social work, and then I eventually combined several of my interests and worked at Noom. And it was then that I moved to a special projects and experiments team and got exposed to a little bit more of the tech side of things. But so it sparked an interest. I thought, I don't really want to go to medical school. I want to pursue tech, but I had no experience. I had no formal education, and the barrier to entry felt incredibly high. Especially compared to my peers who had certifications and knowledge. My first day of the internship, I was leading a project on something that I had never even heard of. So I earned a SQL certification, primarily focused on data analytics, because with my educational history, I had a little bit of analytics experience, and that got my foot into the door at CloudFit. So with over 300 applications for the internship the year that I was an intern, it was still competitive, but I lucked out, and it completely changed the trajectory of my career. It gave me an opportunity to get into tech. And, I was at a point where I was considering leaving the area because there weren't tech roles that I could find here. And if I could find something remote, I would have considered staying, but wasn't sure about that. And so finding CloudFit kind of felt like this golden egg, this thing that was too good to be true. But it worked out. And throughout my time as an intern, I gained hands-on experience and was supported in educational pursuits. And since then, I've been converted to a full-time employee, and that support has continued. And I've gone on to earn a couple of IT and cybersecurity related certifications, which have bridged the gap of my knowledge, and that just continues to grow. So I went from looking at this industry that I wanted to get in, not knowing where to start, seeing this barrier that was really high, seeing how competitive it felt, and then coming into it in a way that was a really smooth transition with a lot of support. And that's Job Fit.
What was the timeline of just kind of where you're with Noom doing things to today? How long has that taken?
So Noom went through a period of major layoffs, and last January I was laid off in a big layoff period. So last January laid off, I then started to pursue more tech education just to help myself. Had my first interview with CloudFit a month later, had my final interview in March and was offered a position, started in June with the internship, and was converted to full-time employee by July. So we're looking at a year of going from being unemployed, feeling overwhelmed, to now in this position with these certifications.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when Laurel talks, what I think about is the chicken and the egg problem is what I call it, right? So it happens in all the industries, but it really happens in tech. I talked to folks at CVCC about this yesterday. You got to have experience to get a job, but but to get experience, you have to have a job, right? And so it's this weird cycle, and we see it a lot in tech, right? It's a lot in other industries too, but we see it a lot in tech. And so really the purpose of Job Fit is to break that cycle, to get someone the either internship or the credentials or whatever it is that they need to help break that cycle. So the question is, if we can do that with tech, can we do it with other things? So, Matt mentioned we have 500 applicants for job fit, and we're going to take around 21 of those. That's a big gap, right? There's a big percentage there of people who are sitting out there saying, hey, I want to go do something, and we're not going to be able to give them anything because we can't hire 500 interns. We would if we could. So job fit has kind of this core methodology that we use to, recruit and reach out and find people and things like that. But today, CloudFit is the only industry that's actually pulling from that. So what would happen if either A, Laurel had wanted to be a machinist, or B, she would have came into the internship and decided, hey, I want to be a machinist instead of doing IT? Like, where does that put Laurel? Where does that put all of the, 449 or whatever people who are trying to get into our internship program, right? And so the question is, what are future opportunities for job fit, and how can we start to work more with industries across our Central Virginia area, starting here in Lynchburg, on, hey, we have these 500 applicants. We're going to take 25 of them. Do you all in other businesses need someone with this skill set? So looking less at things like experience and looking less at things like education, which I spent 20 years in higher ed. I love education, but looking at things like certification and skill set. How do those things relate? How could one of these interns work at Framatome? How could one of these interns work at one of our local Bosch and Loam or something like that? How could one of these folks that we're recruiting that we can't take help someone else, some other industry here in Lynchburg? So if we look at the next slide here, some needs that we have out of this program, some things we wanted to bring to this group. First of all, we want to continue to have these ongoing partnerships within Lynchburg, right? And spread awareness of, hey, we're gathering all of this information about these potential interns or potential employees. We have this data. We don't want to silo it. We don't want to, we're getting what we need out of it. And so we need to help give some of that data away. The next thing is funding, right? So not only funding for interns at CloudFit, but funding for people who need a job. So each intern at CloudFit costs about 10 grand, pay, mentor, equipment, etc. So, CloudFit, we're actively through JobFit, through our nonprofit, looking for ways to do grants, find funding that's going to help us help local people find jobs. And then also locations. So this goes into not only CloudFit, but also those other industry tiers that you were looking at. How do we find locations to put these folks who are looking for work? They're looking for something to do. They're looking for their next step, and they're either doing a career change, or they're coming out of high school, or coming out of college looking for something to do. How do we find places to put them? CloudFit, we could probably support up to 50 interns if once we get things rolling, continue rolling over the next few years. But it doesn't make sense for us to try to support 500 interns when we have 160 employees, right? We didn't have anywhere to put them. More or less try to train them, right? So we're not just bringing in interns to have them go grab coffee and answer emails. We're actually training them to do a job. We want laurels. We want people who are going to come in, we see them do a great job, and then we hire them, and then they grow CloudFit. And that's what other businesses in our area should be wanting too. So some things we wanted you all to be aware of, and some asks, right? So we're planning on having an upcoming job fit event. Matt will reach out and have more information on that. But essentially, just bringing local businesses together and saying, hey, we have this data set, right? And this data set has information about skill set. It has information about experience. It has information about education, things like that. We have this data set, and we don't want to silo it anymore. We want to provide that out, and we want to help people in the area who are looking for jobs find the kind of job they want to have. And so also, we'd love to come back sometime this summer when you guys meet, and we can either do it here or do it over at CloudFit or whatever, and have you all meet this group of interns that we're bringing in, right? So you can actually see more of people like Laurel who are local, or they are staying local to work as an internship, right? So we want to keep people in Central Virginia, or we want to bring people to Central Virginia. And so that whole group that you would see would be that group of people, and, you know, kind of just provide you some insight on what they're doing and how they're doing, right? So with that said, again, we really, I think next slide is probably just some contact info. You know, I'm here, Matt's here, Laurel, some of y'all know Carol. We're all happy to chat this up. And again, the kind of point that I wanted to kind of hit with these last few slides is, again, we've got this data. We've got all these people who are looking for jobs, who are looking for the next thing to do. We're looking for somebody to work together with us to figure out how to use that data to make Central Virginia better.
With that, thank y'all for just, I don't know how long it took, the minutes and listening and all of that. Are there any things lingering or any questions that y'all might have that we can maybe answer or follow back up with?
Do you guys have a need right this minute for enough employees that if every single one of your interns turned out to be fantastic, you'd take them all on?
Last summer, that answer was yes. We hired as many full-time applicable interns that we had. Like, we went through our capstone list and our full-time eligible intern list, and actually were able to hire them within a couple of months. As Laurel said, we hired her midsummer. We hired maybe 3 or 4 midsummer, but then 3 or 4 more right after that. And so there was a small gap between, hey, this person we have 400 hours of experience with says, I'm available for work. Okay, we have a position open up, grab that person. What's also kind of beautiful about this program is I've got high schoolers, career changers, and college students. Not all of them are ready for full-time gigs, right? Like, I had one intern. He was a kicker at Appomattox High School. He came through the STEM program, and he came through our summer program. He's like, hey, I don't want to do college. I've already got a semester worth of experience working with this individual and 400 hours of a paid summer internship experience. So we hired him. And so now he's making, you know, who knows what, I know what, but over there. And so I don't know if that's going to be necessarily true and how the industry best plays out over the next 6 to 8 months for our 21 to 25. But you better believe we keep a pulse on who's full-time eligible. If we have opportunities coming up, sometimes we'll reach out to people. Maybe they've been at their job for 2 years and aren't too satisfied. So we try to balance it.
When you're looking through your applications, do you try to diversify intentionally between high schoolers, college students, someone who didn't want to go to college but may have a certification, to make sure that you're pretty diverse in your group?
Yeah, that's part of the, there's an art and a science to it, but absolutely. We go and look at, I mean, we do unashamedly bias, hey, are you from the Lynchburg area? Let's keep the great people here. But we always try to bring back a couple returns. They kind of help establish the culture over year, and that's been really successful. There's a lot of referrals, whether it's from DARS or Beacon of Hope or from City of Lynchburg or even employee referrals. So we have, okay, who's been referred? And then we've got, okay, how do we meet this matrix of, we do want high schoolers because we want them to be able to have clarity on their career earlier than any of us maybe had clarity on our career. We want college students because we want them to have experience so that we might be able to hire them right out. And then career changers, right? We want to give them the opportunity. So it generally is majority college students, various tenures in their career or college careers, handful of high schoolers today, and then a handful of career changers.
Back to the Appomattox kicker, could you give that kid all the education he would ever need to be successful that you really wouldn't need to ever put him through Virginia Tech or Liberty or Lynchburg or Sweetbriar? Like, do you really need college for what at the end?
So my experience would say, yes, with the right employment atmosphere, you can teach the person what they need to know for that specific job. This young man has been here a year and a half, and he's part of our 24/7 operations center. So initially an entry-level job of responding to live site incidents and that kind of thing. gone on to get his clearance, and now he's been mentored to be a software developer. And so his career aspirations are to be a software developer. And I've got 2 or 3 senior level software engineers pouring into this guy. So take their combined 30 years of experience into a 2-year graduate that's interested to learn. I think he can be successful. Again, I think time will tell, but yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I'll add on to that again. I spent years in higher ed. What this gives people is a choice, right? So some big topics in today's world is student debt, right? Student debt's a huge thing, right? So talk about this engineer that Matt's talking about. He had an opportunity to come work for us, and now he has the financial background. If he wants to go and pursue a degree, he's got the finances to do that. Instead of the other way around.
And to your point, there are several CloudFit employees who were former interns who are finishing up school now. So they are working and completing their degree simultaneously.
And that was the next thing I was going to say. No, thank you, because I couldn't remember it, and there was 2 things in my head. The second thing is being able to finish school online. So back to your question, you said, hey, do you hire people straight away, right? And Matt was talking you through that. We've had some people who have come to work for us who have decided, hey, I'm going to take my last year of 4-year college and I'm going to go online. And I'm going to take that cost of going to school, and I'm actually going to, work to pay for that along, and we provide them with that opportunity. So to me, there's several avenues there, and it really just increases that particular person's choice it gives them more avenues. They don't feel like they're stuck, that they have to go to a 4-year school and spend a bunch of money. They don't feel like they're stuck and they can't, do anything. It's just additional choice options.
You touched upon relationships with other employers in the community. Is there a theme to any pushback regarding the relationship? I mean, what's the?
I'd say we're so early in our journey that there isn't a broad awareness. And so I don't think I've even been able to experience a positive reception or a pushback of reception yet. And so that's part of, I think, us making sure more people are aware of what it is. Also some, upcoming events, maybe bringing some other employers around that might have similar common interests. And I think we're gonna have to walk through that journey. So too soon to tell.
So are you looking more specifically for employers which have or who have more of an IT focus, or where there is a need for more of a drive around IT as part of what they do?
Near term, I'd say yes. I think there's going to be more natural synergies within the IT space and some of our relationships here locally. But with time, we absolutely want to grow beyond the IT pillar, if you will.
I talked to Heather Ransby with Framatome yesterday, and we kind of chatted through this idea of, JobFit has this data set. And one of the things we were talking about was skill set, right? So sometimes we bucket things into industry, like IT, manufacturing, etc. But some of the skill sets that I have from my background in multiple different things works across multiple industries. And so I think that's one of the things we're trying to look at, is not just so much about particular industries, but let's look at the skill set of the person first and see how that fits across an industry. Some of the skill sets I have could easily be used in multiple different industries. And I think it's the same case for some of our interns and some of the folks who apply into our programs as well.
So if I had to play back what I heard today regarding the potential for partnerships with other employers, it would be that you are the anchor, if you want, for a lot of the training, but you're looking for relationships with other employers that you could place some of these interns into as part of the training, and for an opportunity to be exposed to another industry which has an IT application. That's the core piece.
I'd say in a nutshell, that's accurate. And then with time, we're going to push the boundary of IT. So today, I know, we mentioned Framatome as the example. I know they have an IT department and have similar skill set requirements that we have. So instead of just CloudFit sponsoring this year 21 to 25, what if that could be 50? And then part of it is a partnership ongoing internship experience at Framatome, as an example.
And looking at the curriculum. So the big thing for me is solving problems. And so what we do all the time is we're calling on companies, and the biggest thing they talk to us about is workforce development, but there's never a solution. There's never a solution from the employer to solve some of these problems, in my experience over 19 years, a lot of times, and then there's not a solution, ready-made solution on the workforce development side. So this type of service, I mean, they're solving their own problem by doing the internships and setting up something like Job Fit. So I just think even that idea is something that I would like for all of my businesses in the city to know that this company is doing this, right? I think you model incredible, behavior and problem solving there in terms of workforce development. And I also think that we just don't have any idea how the skill sets cross over, right? Like right now, we're all in buckets, and if somebody were to come to me and say, well, CloudFit is doing this intern program, where are the other IT companies? Well, every company's an IT company now.
Yeah.
To some degree, right? And it just takes an open mind. Number one, if the heart doesn't get you, right, the brain should get you, or vice versa, wherever you come from, is just the fact that whatever curriculum or however you're thinking through that, just like Heather, she's looking at skill sets, and those can be had in lots of different places. And that's always been a challenge for us when we've had institutes of higher learning like University of Lynchburg or Randolph. Their people have a really hard time getting jobs and staying in the city, because who's ever in HR may not be the headquarters for the business, right? And you're ignoring all this talent that's here. And we all talk about how do we keep them here? Well, they'll stay here if they have a job. And that's been the case. I don't care, that was 20 years ago, that was the case, and that can be the case now, but it's just got to be bringing those things together. So always for me here, the pilot program was just so compelling, because it is a company that is solving their own issues in terms of employment, but also putting out there, this is just the right thing to do. And we have more people coming than we have the capacity to hire. So we would like and we've talked about it for the last couple of years, is being able to connect this group with Centra, with the colleges and universities, with Framatome, with BWXT, and saying there's probably a really easy crossover here between the skill sets you need, even if you took it just to your IT department. But I feel like Justin said, there's probably much, much broader than that. And it also just makes for a better business climate and community.
Just one last quick question. You mentioned the 30 coaches that are internal. What do they go through to basically be a coach? Is there do you prepare them in any
Justin leads
particular
the
way?
coaches aspect of it. So I'll let him cover it.
Yeah, so we have trainings throughout the summer where we meet specifically with the coaches to talk about, hey, here are some things that you should be doing. We're really concerned in two areas, right? One is technical skill, right? So we want a subject matter expert, a SME. We associate them with people who are working in those areas. So like last year, Laurel did project management. She had another project manager who was her coach. Second is soft skills, right? So that's huge. So really, when I talk to my coaches, that's the two areas I want them to be doing is, hey, here is some training, and I don't have to provide them much training on how to teach technically. Really where I focus is, hey, here are some soft skill areas where we're seeing interns need some help. And we want y'all to really focus in here on these soft skills. We utilize our people ops department to come in and do training for those coaches as well in different areas, just like we would train team leads. We have some sessions where our people ops folks come in and do some training for those folks and say, hey, when they're on a call with each other, or, we have internal stakeholder customers that they get on calls with, this is decorum, things like that. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to kind of drive into coaches to then drive into the interns.
Thank you.
Again, We do have a foosball table on our 4th floor. It's one of the interns' favorite. Chris Deaton over here was an intern with us 4 or 5 years ago, and now he's spent about 5 years as a software developer, one of the original CloudFit members, interns, etc. But seriously, thank you all for the opportunity and continued partnership. If you have any questions, I think they have the deck and everything. You have our contact. Marjette and Alicia know exactly where we sit. But again, just thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much,
Thank you.
so very much.
Do y'all have enough space over there to keep adding some people, or do you need to have another office, or a lot of people virtual if need be, or?
All of the above.
I was about to say yes. We have a little bit of space left at headquarters. We've kept the relationship up with Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance. We do still have a location over there. So when our number says 35 to 50, it's getting into a room kind of packed like this. But then I know Carol is always thinking about, okay, what's next as we need, and so.
Always, he already has the buildings picked out.
See?
It's just a question of, is it, you know,
The
is it
timing.
the right time?
I think
Absolutely. So he did that from Jump Street. He's already known what buildings he wants. And he manifests
He
them
does.
with a big partner to make it so.
He would tell you that we're at HQ and then we'll flex to LRBA ongoing as we need while we're getting ready for whatever the next building may be, when the
Yep.
timing is right. And so that's kind of the gymnastics. But once we start getting up 50, 60, 70 employees, you know, maybe the Lord will open up like a couple of the Bank of the James floors for us. But that'd be cool. Yeah. Thank y'all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remind me again, how did they start here and why did they choose Lynchburg?
Well, Carol Moon is from, Alta Vista.
Okay.
And he had a 20-year career. Most of them all came from Microsoft. So they had long-term careers and teleworked and did all that, and then saw the opportunity at Microsoft to roll off for their own company, you know, to provide. Their biggest contract is probably still with Microsoft, right? They provide services for Microsoft, which is, you know, really interesting because when Ericsson was here and these different folks, there's a lot of companies right now that rolled off because they saw whatever particular discipline they were in at the company, then they just rolled that off and made it separate because there was capacity for them to do that. So, Carol is very, very servant leadership oriented. And therefore he really, when they rolled off, his whole thing was everything they do at the business is to benefit those nonprofits, especially KidFit, on the other side of it. So, you know, Blair bought that building from the EDA. And that building was refurbished and they leased that building. And I don't know that they themselves are necessarily interested in owning the property, but you know, a downtown situation is almost ideal for a lot of technology companies because they love the older buildings or the architecture or the walkability or all of those things. So. That's just it's a really great program, and you know, I've always known that the next step of that really needed to be to get the major employers in a room, right, to let them just see what was happening there. Maybe, you know, they might not be able to cross-reference the skill sets, but their HR people would.
I like the fact that it's paid internships. It broadens the field to those students who normally have to work in the summer to make do. So it gives them the opportunity to learn.
Yeah, and they do, it's really a great, I mean, every time I go to the ceremony that they normally have over at Jubilee, you know, where they work with kids over there, but they themselves are all interns and everything. It's really a great, when you talk about soft skills and then the actual skills you need from the technology side, it's just a great blend of all of that, right? All the things you ever hear about workforce development is always soft skills lacking or you know, that type of thing. So it's just, it's really a great program. And so the money that you all have given for, you know, specific, like 3 interns or 4 interns or whatever it is for City of Lynchburg interns, right? So they, you know, people have a really hard time understanding, you know, the regional approach, which I get, but my job is to make sure that the city remains vibrant and solvent, and the people in the region should want me to do that, because if we're not here, they can forget it.
Good. Any further discussion on that? Let's move on to discuss the Bedford Regional Water Authority easement, which I guess we had previously approved.
You
and
did.
Now they would like to change it.
They want to change the line and go across the creek. The package that you got from Lodgette included the new easement. And, you know, it's down in the creek bottom. It doesn't have an effect on any of the authorities.
So Clayton went one step further than just these drawings, and we reached out to the engineers that are helping us with the Ivy Creek sites A and B to make sure that the movement of this easement, like Ted was alluding to, does not impact, you know, your ability to market the property, or doesn't have an impact. So I think all of that is, those types of things are really important, because the group with the Bedford Regional Water Authority has been a little challenging to deal with. And when they decide that they need something from you all, we got to turn it around pretty quickly, and we need time to do due diligence on these things. So I really appreciate Clayton getting on that. And so you all have you have a stated opinion about the fact that it doesn't impact.
So you're recommending we make a motion to approve and move on? I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion to approve this updated easement. Is there any discussion before we take a vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, VBAF grant application.
So we don't acronym you to death. That is the Virginia Brownfields Assistance Fund grant application. And we talked about that having, all the stars aligned in terms of a project that was going on here. And the state is really one of the only places that our Brownfields grants that come through you all are for assessment, pretty much only. And one of the things it does allow is when we go in and do the assessments on a particular property, we can go one step further. If there's a building involved, we can do structural integrity of the building. And then we can do conceptual drawings at times, and that all of that is about the marketability of that. But that's pretty much where it stops. We don't have any remediation money. And fortunately for us, that we haven't had anything thus far in the 3 grants that we've gotten that really required remediation. But the state has been great partners with this office and worked alongside us and supplemented or allowed us to leverage the federal brownfield grants with state applications where necessary. So we have a great relationship with the Department of Environmental Quality and the director there. And so when we had a conversation with the property owner, and what might need to be done and how quickly, one of the things that always inhibits what we're going to do is how quickly somebody that's developing a property wants to move.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't move any faster if we're asking for money from the state or federal government, or even from you all at times. So therefore, this grant application, we talked about at your last meeting to move forward with. We really felt like that would that from all the indications that we got we received from the state, that we could move really rapidly. And Clayton did an outstanding job, not necessarily something in his wheelhouse nor mine, but he sent the application up and we have been awarded the grant. And he did that like in a week, so he did a
Yeah,
fantastic job. Now the hard part comes, and that's getting it all set up, poor Keisha. And because we always tell her, we're not gonna do any more grants until you can get settled on this, right? And it's also working with developers because they always think that we should and can do things that we maybe don't necessarily. So I'm gonna let Clayton take it from here.
Sure. So essentially the way that the program works is once the agreement has been executed, the state will transfer $50,000 into the EDA's bank account. It will sit there until the developer has given us a proof of payment on the contracted work that includes the vapor mitigation and seal. So basically the developer will go and contract the contractor to come in, do the work. Once they've proven to us that they've done the work, they'll give us an invoice, we'll cut a check to them, and then the remaining balance, because we're operating under the assumption that this is going to cost less than $50,000, but we didn't have a finalized proposal for the job prior to putting in the application because we did that so quickly. So the state gave us a grant for up to 50, and then we'll return the remaining balance. The performance agreement is active until the end of the year, so December 31st. We will hopefully keep it open until then. The developer's wanting to be done with the project and open and leasing in the fall. So there should be a period of time between when the project is done and when the performance agreement is due to be completed. We'll have the inspections department here when they issue permits or finalize permits for the city inspected as well.
So that'll be a real critical part, is most of the time when I do anything like this, you want to make sure that that work is, that if the EDA is involved, that work has been signed off on and inspected. So Clayton's going to, find out who the building inspector is that is working on this particular project. And therefore we would, we're going to work alongside them to make sure that all inspections, everything that the city needs, where you as a board and appointed by council are not, issuing grant funds where it hadn't been inspected or anything.
I do have a question. So when we hold the 50,000, is this 100% flow through, or do we earn interest
No,
when we hold?
It's flow through.
It's 100% flow through. Okay. I had another question. Was the local match as
Will you
detailed?
explain the local match?
Yeah, so we have on this site performed a phase 2 ESA already
Okay.
with the $500,000 grant from 2022.
Oh, okay.
So they used the money that we've already spent from a different grant as the match.
As the match.
So
Okay.
no money coming out of
Okay.
EA whatsoever.
Those were my two questions. Thank you.
And could you just remind me, and I apologise if I should know this, this is the dry cleaners, right? And
Mhm.
it's the vapor system, and
Correct.
what happens after that? What are they going to turn this into? Do we
It's
know?
going to be a
Mixed
mixed
use.
use development,
Mixed
so
use,
10 apartments and
Okay.
just under 4,000 square feet of commercial space.
So we would not do residential. So
That's what
this
I'm
is
looking-
so
thank
it's,
you.
this is a minuscule, this really isn't a lot of commercial space. And so, once again, this is, this office and the EDA going above and beyond.
Commercial space, office space, do we know?
Looks like retail.
It's going to be a retail space.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I saw the big windows. Must be retail.
Do you know what type of business, I mean, as far as the retail, what it's gonna be?
Clayton knows.
It's like a there will be food and, I believe like house goods.
Okay,
So kind of a mixed shop.
okay.
There's a, no, there is a press release, online,
Okay.
get to you.
Because it's kind of a food desert there, groceries, any form of fresh would be.
Dollar General.
They own the Dollar General. They own that building too. So,
All right, any further discussion before I accept a motion to authorize the chair to execute the performance agreement?
I motion so.
Second,
We have a motion to authorize the chair to execute the performance agreement. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
awesome sauce.
Staff report.
Okey dokey. So the staff report is in there for you all to peruse. I just, and a lot of what we've talked about in here today is in this, is in the, referred to in the staff report. I just want to, again, make a comment to the board members is just how important the tourism side is to the balancing out the economy within the city, because I mean, even though manufacturing is the largest part of our GDP, manufacturing as a whole is not set to grow across the country. It's relatively flat. So when people lean in on me and say, well, what you need to do this, that, and the other, well, you know, all these things are cyclical. And so therefore, if you're not in the chip business in terms of manufacturing, it can be a little tough, but with the city of Lynchburg is relatively diversified with the businesses that are here, and we're working, as you all know, on Project Range. We are really waiting for the state to have their MEI, Major Employment and Investment Commission members appointed, and we should move forward from there. But really in the spaces of manufacturing, the ones that are really moving forward and probably making a lot of hires are going to be those that are in that chip side of the house. Because what we see in our business visits, which is, I'm sure all of you know, is a lot of buying pieces of equipment that require less people to do the things, right? So that's another reason why CloudFit training people, there's practically no manufacturing facility that you go in anymore that you don't see iPads being used to run the equipment and all of that. So it's real when it comes to having that kind of background to be able to get a job.
On the tourism front, where is that big, what they call that golf thing? Not disco golf, disc golf.
Yeah.
Frisbee.
The professional, the international
When is that
disc golf, it's coming in August.
August, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the same weekend as our slide thing? The 23rd, 24th, 25th of August? City of Lynchburg's gonna be hopping. I
Explode,
mean,
yeah.
there's going to be, because we
Yeah, and
expect
it's so,
about 2,000
it's really interesting because, you know, you get these opportunities, and once again, the Airstream Ventures is, you know, Andrew's out there right now as we speak, selling the city to all kinds of things. He won't be back until next Thursday. And the sheer number of appointments that he has on these days when he can have 30 appointments in one day, right? So we have to give him all kinds of tools to be able to sell things, but he has all kinds of limitations too. And from a facility standpoint, right, we can only sell what we have, and most of what we have doesn't belong to the city. It's not a Parks and Rec type of thing. It is the colleges and universities, and we don't have favored nation status. Naturally, their students come first. So we're slotting all this stuff in there, but Airstream Ventures kind of deepens the bench for Andrew there, and they're out calling on things too. So we've had a call earlier this week that there's already interest from just the fact that the international disc golf is coming here. They're thinking of putting an amateur tour here, and that just doesn't happen, right? You usually have to prove yourself and do all kinds of things, but obviously the disc golf, the major disc golf course is actually in Bedford County. So, but the people, the hotel rooms would be full here, and hopefully people would be coming to Kim's Slide, and you're just juggling all of that, but it is just such an incredible part of the economy that I think
sure.
people just think happens, and it takes a lot of work.
It's
London-
London Downs for the course, not out in Bedford.
No,
It'll
No,
be
it's Bedford.
Ivy
Hill.
Hill?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure I realized they, out by the golf course
I think
somewhere?
I think
On the golf.
on the golf
I
course.
believe.
Yeah. They're putting in like a temporary course.
Okay. Missed that. somehow.
yeah.
Doesn't Bedford also have a
They
professional
were at Peaks.
They do, yeah.
disc?
I think that
Okay.
Yeah, Bedford, good on them. I mean, they went out, and Wyatt Woody is now our Parks and Rec director, but he was in Bedford for 18 years. And they, took advantage of putting in, and they also had I'll show how old I am, but the Arnold Palmer of disc golf designed that course. Right, for them out there. So that's who came in to see me, was the actual young man who had designed the course, and Runkin Pratt, who owns Ivy Hill. And so that opportunity, presented itself. But you really have to be able to stick and move when those opportunities come. And the same thing goes with Liberty or anybody. We've got to have the bid fees. Right, because Liberty can't pay those bid fees because they would be violating rules. But having those bid fees to be able to make those decisions quickly is really important to landing some of these things. So it's just a really important piece that you all don't necessarily get involved in yet. But all of this, right? All of this is the balancing act that is, and I think as time goes on, the colleges and universities and working alongside them and trying to figure out how to get their folks to stay, but also how to get more people on their campus, more students to them, becomes just as important as visiting all the manufacturers here. So that is all I have.
Can I ask one question? Is it open?
Please.
Did you ever hear back from the meeting that the airport director attended in Phoenix, wherever it was?
Yeah, I think it's still in, still, they went to that meeting, had a good meeting, but they still haven't, whatever finalizing all that has not happened.
Because we would expect as a consequence of that to support a grant, is that correct?
Well, I think what happened was we've already gotten a grant. So the city has already, Andrew, the airport has already gotten a grant for, I think, $600,000. Winter has, and city council has supported a $400,000 match to that grant. So there's $1 million from, the city and Andrew lay on the table, right? And the phone call was really to get not only, and we all hopefully know this, is that if you want another flight, you've got to pay for it. You've got to subsidize it, right? The EDA's always known that. You all have participated in years past in that.
Well, the results.
But we don't know yet what the results, and I think a lot of that is, but it's also that having your largest employer support wanting that to happen, and also having them say that should it come to that, they would be willing to financially, participate as well, is a really big feather in our cap when we're sitting there talking to the major airlines.
So who's that larger? Who's the?
Centra, Liberty,
Oh.
Framatome, BWXT.
But that request hasn't been made yet. Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion before we adjourn? If not, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.